Some people sell their souls for a corner office. I bought my freedom by walking out of one. The smell of expensive mahogany and betrayal is a scent you never quite get out of your lungs. For 5 years, I thought I was building a kingdom with a woman who held my heart and a mentor who held my future. I didn't realize I was actually building a gilded cage, and the person holding the key was already undoing the lock to my life while I was busy working overtime to pay for our dream. The glass ceiling of betrayal. The rain in the city didn't wash things clean. It just made the neon lights of the corporate district look like bleeding ink. Tony sat in his sedan, the one he was still paying off, staring at the towering glass monolith of Apex Global Solutions. For 5 years that building was his temple. For 5 years the woman waiting at home, Maya, was his goddess. Or so he thought. The foundation of a lie. Tony and Maya were the it couple of the marketing department. They met over a jammed printer in their first week. He loved her ambition, she loved his stability. By year 3 they were engaged. By year 5 they were closing in on senior VP roles. Tony believed in the climb. He believed that if you worked harder than the person next to you, the universe rewarded you. He didn't realize that Maya had found a shortcut, and that shortcut sat in the corner office on the 40th floor. The afternoon the world ended. It was a Tuesday, unremarkable and gray. Tony had forgotten his tablet in the conference room adjacent to the CEO's suite. His boss, Marcus, a 50-year-old man who wore cologne that smelled like old money and ego, was supposed to be at a golf retreat. As Tony walked past the frosted glass of the executive cabin, he saw a silhouette. He paused, his heart fluttering with a strange, instinctual dread. The door wasn't fully latched. Through the 2-inch crack, the world shattered. There was Maya. His Maya. Her hands were tangled in Marcus's graying hair. The laughter she gave him wasn't the polite, corporate chuckle she used in meetings. It was intimate. It was a trade. Marcus whispered something about the regional director position, and she kissed him again, a seal on a demonic contract. Tony didn't burst in. He didn't scream. A man with true dignity knows that some scenes are too filthy to step into. He backed away, his footsteps silent on the plush carpet, feeling like a ghost in his own life. The cost of dignity. That night, the apartment felt like a crime scene. Maya came home late, smelling of expensive scotch and lies. "Rough day, babe?" she asked, dropping her designer bag, a gift Marcus had likely funded, on the counter. Tony looked at her. He saw the woman he loved, but he also saw the stranger who had sold 5 years of history for a corner office. "I'm leaving," Tony said. His voice was a flat line. "Leaving for drinks?" "It's late," she laughed. "I'm leaving the firm. And I'm leaving us." The color drained from her face. She tried to play the victim, then the lawyer, then the lover. "Tony, be realistic. You have a mortgage. You have the car loan. If you quit now, Marcus will blackball you. We can be a power couple. It's just business." "If your love is a business transaction," Tony replied, packing a single suitcase, "then I'm declaring bankruptcy." The resignation. The next morning, Tony walked into Marcus's office. He didn't throw a punch, though his knuckles ached too. He simply placed a single sheet of paper on the mahogany desk. "I quit. Effective immediately," it read. Marcus smirked, leaning back in his leather chair. "You're throwing away a decade of networking over a girl? Don't be a martyr, Tony. Sit down. I'll give you a raise." Tony looked at the man, a 50-year-old predator who thought everything had a price tag. "You didn't take her from me, Marcus. You just showed me she wasn't mine to begin with. Keep the job. You're both going to need each other when the guilt sets in." The void and the new horizon. The weeks that followed were a test of fire. Tony lost the car. He moved into a small, cramped studio apartment where the heater rattled like a dying breath. His friends from the office stopped calling. They were too afraid of Marcus's reach. He spent his days in libraries and coffee shops, scouring job boards. But he wasn't just looking for a salary anymore. He was looking for a culture that didn't require a soul sacrifice. The turning point. One afternoon, sitting in a park with a lukewarm coffee, Tony realized something. His dignity was the only currency that never devalued. He started reaching out to smaller startups, places where the CEO actually knew the names of the interns. He was honest in his interviews. "Why did you leave Apex?" they would ask. "Because my integrity was worth more than their equity," he would answer. The new dawn. Yesterday Tony received an offer. It's a boutique firm. The pay is less than Apex, and he'll be taking the subway instead of driving a luxury sedan. But when he walked into the office, he saw people looking each other in the eye. He saw transparency. He saw a place where trust wasn't a buzzword but a foundation. Maya reached out last night. A text: "Marcus passed me over for the promotion. He gave it to someone else. I made a mistake. Can we talk?" Tony didn't reply. He didn't even delete it. He just locked his phone and looked out at the city. For the first time in 5 years, the air felt clear. The city lights no longer looked like cold, unreachable diamonds. They looked like a map of possibilities. Tony's new office, Veritas Analytics, was a stark contrast to the chrome and glass tomb of Apex. Here, the walls were exposed brick, the desks were shared, and the coffee was actually brewed by people who talked to each other. It was during a Friday power hour, a casual debrief session, that the veil over his past life was truly torn away. The ghost of Apex. Tony was sitting with Sarah and Elena, two senior analysts who had joined Veritas a year prior. The conversation drifted toward industry reputations. "I saw on LinkedIn that Apex Global is restructuring again," Elena said, swirling her drink. "Third time in 2 years. That place is a revolving door of talent and lawsuits." Tony steeled himself. "I spent 5 years there. It had its challenges." Sarah looked at Tony, her expression softening into something like pity, but with a sharp edge of knowing. "You worked directly under Marcus, didn't you, Tony?" Tony nodded slowly. "I did. Until a few months ago. The pattern of promotion." "Then you saw the pattern," Sarah said, dropping her voice. "We call it the Apex ladder. Marcus doesn't hire for skill. He hires for vulnerability. He looks for ambitious women, usually young, usually with big financial goals, and he offers them the world. But the price is always the same." Tony felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He thought of Maya, her desperation to reach the top, her sudden designer bags, and the way Marcus had looked at her in that cabin. "He's a serial predator disguised as a mentor," Elena added. "He targets them, convinces them that office politics requires intimacy, and the moment they actually get the promotion or, God forbid, ask for a commitment, he finds a reason to fire them. Or he brings in a new protege to replace them. It's a conveyor belt of broken careers." The harsh realization. The revelation hit Tony like a physical blow. 4 months, he had been haunted by the idea that Maya had simply chosen a better man, a more successful, powerful version of what he was trying to be. But as Sarah and Elena talked, the truth became clearer and uglier. Marcus didn't love Maya. He didn't even value her. He was a con artist who used the corporate structure as his personal hunting ground. "There's a silent support group of ex-Apex women in this city," Sarah whispered. "At least 4 of them filed HR complaints that were buried by the board because Marcus brings in too much revenue. He didn't just steal your fiancée, Tony. He ran a play on her. And she was too blinded by the growth, he promised to see the hook in the bait." The weight lifted. Tony walked home that night, but his gait was different. The bitterness that had sat in his chest like lead for months began to evaporate. He realized that Maya hadn't just betrayed him, she had betrayed herself. She had fallen for the oldest trick in the corporate book, traded a 5-year foundation of genuine love for a temporary seat at a table owned by a monster. He pulled out his phone and looked at the text she had sent the night before. "Marcus passed me over for the promotion. I made a mistake." Now he understood. She hadn't reached out because she missed him. She reached out because the growth she sacrificed him for had turned out to be a lie. The 50-year-old man hadn't been her ticket to the top. He was the ceiling that finally crashed down on her. The final closure. Tony stopped by a trash can on the corner of his new street. He didn't feel anger anymore, only a profound sense of relief. He wasn't the loser in this story. He was the only one who had walked away with his soul intact. Tony didn't reply. He didn't even delete it. He just locked his phone and looked out at the city. For the first time in 5 years, the air felt clear. The neon glow of the skyscrapers, once a reminder of the growth he had lost, now looked like a distant, frantic world he had escaped. He was no longer a gear in Marcus's machine. He was no longer the safety net for a woman who chose a shortcut over a journey. He was Tony, a man who owned nothing but his word, and for the first time that felt like owning everything. The Veritas revelation. The transition to Veritas Analytics had been a culture shock. At Apex, every conversation felt like a chess move. At Veritas, people actually ate lunch together without checking their stock options. It was a rainy Friday afternoon during the decompression, a weekly tradition where the team gathered to vent about the industry. Tony sat with Sarah and Elena, two senior leads who had a combined 20 years in the corporate trenches. "I saw the news," Elena said, tapping her tablet. "Apex Global just lost the Miller account. That's the third major exit this quarter. Marcus must be losing his mind." Tony stiffened at the name. "He's a resilient guy," he said cautiously. "He usually finds a way to pivot." Sarah leaned in, her eyes sharp. "He doesn't pivot, Tony. He predates. We all know the Marcus method. You were there, did you really not see it? Or were you just too high up in the clouds with Maya?" The Predator's playbook. The mention of Maya sent a jolt through him. I saw them together," Tony admitted, his voice low. "That's why I left. She wanted the promotion. He gave it to her. Or so I thought." Sarah shook her head, a look of grim pity on her face. "Tony, he didn't give her a promotion. He gave her a lease. Marcus doesn't promote women. He onboards them into his personal life. He targets the ones who are hungry, the ones who think a 50-year-old CEO is a mentor. He isolates them from their partners, usually by overworking the partners like he did to you, and then he moves in. He's a con artist in a bespoke suit," Elena added. "He's done it 4 times that we know of. He promises them the regional director spot, uses them until the novelty wears off, and then finds a performance issue to push them out. He doesn't want a partner, he wants a trophy he can fire when it gets dusty." The truth behind the curtain. The realization hit Tony like a physical weight being lifted. All those nights he stayed late at the office, thinking he was building a future for him and Maya, were actually orchestrated by Marcus to keep him out of the way. Marcus hadn't just stolen his fiancée, he had engineered the vacancy. "And Maya?" Tony asked. "She's just the latest casualty," Sarah said. "The promotion she got was a temporary title with no real power. Word is, Marcus already has a new executive assistant from the London branch. Maya was yesterday's news the moment she said yes to him." The clean break. Tony walked home that evening, the rain cooling his skin. The anger he expected to feel, the rage at being played, didn't come. Instead, he felt a profound sense of irony. Maya had traded a 5-year investment of loyalty for a lie told by a man who viewed people as depreciating assets. She had jumped ship for a better life, only to find out the captain was a pirate who scuttled his own vessels. He pulled out his phone. The text from her was still there, glowing like a dying ember. "Marcus passed me over. I made a mistake. Can we talk?" He finally understood the mistake she was talking about. It wasn't that she had hurt him, it was that the gamble hadn't paid off. She hadn't lost a fiancé, she had lost a career move. The final act of dignity. Tony stood at the edge of the park near his new humble apartment. He didn't need to yell. He didn't need a confrontation. He didn't even need an apology. He opened his contacts. Maya, blocked. Marcus, blocked. He stepped into his apartment, closed the door on the past, and started drafting his first project for Veritas. He was building something again, but this time the foundation was made of stone, not glass.